Hello, I'm Sarah, the creator of the RiutBag, and this morning over breakfast I'm going to be talking about why I check each RiutBag individually. Some people think, oh, that's a nice touch, or are you mad? Or I remember some comments saying, don't you trust your factory? Do you have a really rubbish factory? What is going on, basically? Why do you do this? And why doesn't anyone else do this? There are a few reasons, as ever, and the first one is that a few years ago I was just a normal consumer. I would go into a shop and buy something if I needed it, and that meant, as a consumer, especially in Europe, that you can expect a very high standard of product when you get there, and if there's any problem with it, then you take it back. So in my head, when I made the RiutBags for the first time, the first production, I expected them all to be absolutely perfect when they came out, and they definitely weren't, and I found myself being really quite shocked and distressed by this. Then I put that aside because I was only there for a few days to actually pick up the first production, and we just got on with looking through all of them, putting the problem bags aside, and I realised that I wasn't going to receive the RiutBags like a box of perfect chocolates just presented for me, like, you know, if I went to a shop somewhere in town and just bought 1,000 of something. It just wasn't like that. And you might say, oh, the problem is that you manufacture in China, but I disagree. I think I was in the wrong mindset when I first started making the RiutBag. I thought everything would be easier than it was, and it turns out it isn't. So here are some analogies that help me understand what I'm doing, basically, why I check every RiutBag one by one. So number one is writing a document. If you are writing a document of more than about 1,000 words, or even more than about 100 words, when you write that document, you've got a lot of meaning that you're trying to put into the thing, and most likely when you finish that document, even though you've read through it 3 or 4 times, it's still likely that there are going to be typos and errors in there. And it's not because you are bad at writing, it's because when you are typing lots of individual letters into a computer or onto a typewriter, you are likely to make a mistake. That is why, even if you have a professional author or a journalist, someone else is likely to check through what you've written. And they won't just check through the first paragraph, they will check every single word, and possibly someone else will read it as well, in order to really make sure that all of those final typos are out. And as we've all seen when we're reading newspapers or articles or even books, sometimes there are still typos in there. So that need to check something, even when it's been created by someone who really knows what they're doing, is sort of part of the mindset. And the other thing, especially, it's a little bit closer to what I'm doing, I feel. It's a rather odd analogy, but you're going to have to stick with me on this. So when you go to a really amazing restaurant that perhaps has a few Michelin stars or something, you've got great people working in the restaurant, and they are attempting to create or recreate the same dish again and again in a number of different styles, perhaps a number of different models, if you take where I'm coming from. So this time we're making R15s, R10s, blue RiutBag crushes, black RiutBag crushes. So I've got 4 dishes on my menu, essentially, and there are 22 people in the factory akin to my kitchen who know what they're doing. They know how to make backpacks, and I am there to check every single backpack, every single RiutBag, every single plate as it is going out to you, the customer. by me being there and doing that and checking every single one, it means that I can keep the kind of standard that I think is important. If I leave it to my factory, then I know they've got really different standards. They've got higher standards than me when it comes to certain things, like consistency of how something has been sewn, because that's their expertise. But they've got lower standards when it comes to things that they haven't thought of in the design, like how it is used, because they don't understand that aspect of it, because that's my particular design philosophy that I designed the RiutBag around the user. So essentially what I'm trying to do is create Michelin-starred backpacks for you, where I hover over every RiutBag, check every aspect and make sure it is exactly the way I intend it to be. Now, when it comes to you, you can say, I don't think it's great, but I am still attempting, if you want to, but I am still attempting, this is my way of keeping a high standard, or consistent standard, in the way that I want to create the RiutBag. So that's how I've chosen to do it. And I think the best place to do this is at the factory, so in the kitchen, rather than in a place where I can no longer correct any of the problems. Because let's say a zip is missing on a RiutBag. Everything else is perfect, but one of the zips hadn't actually been put on. And I mean, there is only one zip running along one zip head running along the zip. At the factory, I can get that fixed immediately. Just like in a kitchen, you can say, no, we're missing the peas or something, and then you can get them on. And you can also scrap the entire plate and start again, because you can very quickly pull everything together. So especially this Michelin-starred kitchen approach is why I check every single RiutBag. Are there any other reasons? Yeah, I mean, there is one more practical point. Usually, backpack companies sell their backpacks to department stores, like John Lewis and people like that. So if they do that, what's likely to happen is that the backpacks will have a check at the factory. Then they'll arrive at the store. Someone will take them out and go, oh wait, there's a problem. We'll put that one aside. Then they go out onto the shop floor, and someone again will probably check them and say, oh wait, this one's got a problem, take that off, only put the good ones on the stand. And then the customer comes along and searches through them, tries them on. There are a few downsides and upsides to having the shop. That is, lots of people will try them on try on the backpacks over many months, but also you get to choose exactly the one that you want, and if you see a problem, you can immediately put it to one side and choose another one. Because there are no checking points, there is no shop in between the moment that the RiutBag leaves the factory and the moment that you open your RiutBag. I have to do a completely different standard of checking to most of the other backpack companies out there who are willing to sell through different methods. But because I sell direct to you, it's up to me to make sure that that RiutBag is as high a standard as it can possibly be. So there you go, the equivalent of analogies to editing a document, creating Michelin-starred meals, and the practicalities of being the last person to see your RiutBag before you get it. That is why I check the RiutBags one by one.